to chemical studies in the next century. New problems on the road to controlled nuclear fusion, and were there studies of the occult in the former Soviet Union? Our first item in the program concerns chemistry. A congress of experts in this area of science was held not so long ago now in St. Petersburg. So to tell us all about it, here's our science correspondent, Boris Beliski.
It was in some respects an anniversary congress, for it marked the 250th anniversary of the founding of the first chemical laboratory in Russia by Mikhail Lomonosov. The logo of the congress was Chemistry on the Eve of the 21st Century, and over 1,000 chemists from 50 countries gathered for the event. The 16th Mendeleev Congress on General and Analytical Chemistry. The Congress reviewed what has been accomplished by the chemical community in this century and examined the prospects of chemical science and technology in the next century. The Congress President, Dr. Estell and Boris, also a Vice President of the Russian Academy of Sciences, pointed out that there are two important new trends in chemistry today. One is aimed at making deeper advances in molecular biology, or what is coming to be called physico-chemical biology. This concerns the very complicated chemical systems that make up living beings, and the molecular approach to many, if not all, physiological processes. The second trend centers on materials science, the creation of new materials. Many advances in physics and chemistry are today being translated into promising new materials. Now, here's how the Congress was summed up by the French professor Jean-Paul, the director of the Chemistry Institute of the French National Center of Scientific Research.
First of all, I'm very impressed by this Congress, the number of participants, the quality of the presentation. Several foreign participants were present during this Congress, and we had the opportunity to have scientific exchange with our colleagues from the former Soviet Union, and it has been very, very fruitful. And I would like especially to mention the INTA session devoted to the presentation of projects between the research group from the former Soviet Union countries and the research group from Western Europe. This INTA process gave the opportunity really to launch and to set up very, very strong and very, very efficient collaboration, and the results presented have been very, very impressive.
And now, as usual, question time. We've had quite a number of listeners interested in nuclear fusion as a potential source of energy on our planet. They include John Shields in Ohio, in the United States of America, Scott in Cumberland, Canada, and Mr. Ramesh in Kerala, India. So, Boris, before you tell us of the latest developments in this field, do please remind us just what nuclear fusion actually is.
Yes, of course. The nuclear fission reactors of today generate energy by splitting atoms of the whole element, like uranium. Fusion, by contrast, produces energy by fusing or welding atoms of the light element, such as hydrogen. The fusion process takes place in the interior of the sun, where temperatures reach 14 million degrees centigrade, and gravitational pressures are crushing. This compresses nuclear particles so that they fuse and release huge amounts of energy in the process.
Boris, but how is Russia doing in this field of research?
Russia is an active partner just now in a collaborative project known as ITER, which stands for International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. This is a project uniting the efforts of scientists in Europe, the United States, and Japan, as well as Russia. The project is seen as the next step fusion reactor and is based on a concept known as tokamak, developed in this country.
Tokamak? Not an old name, I think. What's the actual name?
It's an acronym derived from the Russian names for the main parts of the installation: the torus, the chamber, and the magnetic coils. The concept was chosen for the international project because, well, it's the most promising concept today. Accordingly, the Russian scientist, Estell was chosen to have the scientific council supervising the project.
What's the status of the project today, Boris?
Unfortunately, the very survival of the project is threatened. This is because the United States House of Representatives is demanding that the Department of Energy refrain from signing the agreement on the next phase of the work on the project. The agreement was to have been signed in Vienna later this month.
And what's Russia's attitude to this?
Russia is strongly critical of the move by the United States Congress. It's widely believed that the United States, which is now in possession of the technical documents of this joint project, wants to divert its contribution to the project to its domestic fusion research program and go it alone. It alone, among the project partners, has the resources for this. The American intention has prompted Beliski, as the scientific head of the project, to write a letter on the subject to President Clinton.
You know, Boris, I'm sure that a lot of people are asking, is the project, in fact, all that important?
Oh, yes.
It is?
Yes. The harnessing of nuclear fusion for power generation would be a revolution comparable in importance to, say, the invention of the steam engine or the computer. Fusion alone can provide a long-term solution to the world's energy problems. Unlike gas or coal, this would be an inexhaustible source of energy. And unlike the present nuclear power plant, it would be environmentally safe.
Now, Boris, you said the project was based on a Russian concept, didn't you?
Yes. The first step towards the fusion reactor was incidentally made by the great Enrico Fermi in Chicago in 1942. Since then, work in this field has continued in all the major countries. But in this country, Andrei Sakharov and Igor Tamm, back in the 50s, proposed an original idea of using donut-shaped magnetic chambers for plasma containment, and this led to the development of tokamak installations. There are now as many as 300 tokamaks in the world, although no more than 20 are actually operational at this moment. 3 of them operate in Russia, 2 at the Kurchatov Center in Moscow, and 1 at the Physico-Technical Institute in St. Petersburg.
Where's the biggest headway being made then in operating these devices, do you think?
I believe the record at the moment is held by fusion researchers in Britain. They contained a 17-megawatt plasma for several seconds.
Well, to return to the international project, you said that Russia was quite active in it, actually.
Yes, definitely. In addition to Beliski being actually at the head of the whole project, Professor Valery Chuyanov of the Kurchatov Center headed a group of 60 specialists at San Diego in the United States. This was one of the 3 working groups that designed the ITER installation. 10 of the 60 specialists in that group were from Russia. Let me add that this is one of the few international scientific projects on which Russia has been able to honor all its financial commitments without any delay. So far, by the way, each of the ITER partners has contributed about $15 million to the project.
Oh, by the way, where's ITER funded?
So far, there have been offers to host the project from Italy, Japan, and Canada. A site was to have been chosen at the Vienna meeting later this month. But the whole project, as I said, is now in jeopardy because of the decision taken by the United States Congress.
Now, this letter, Boris, what was the gist of it?
Beliski, the scientific head of the project, expressed regret to President Clinton that the United States had not signed the extension of the engineering design agreement, known as EDA, which runs out this month. Beliski points out that this could virtually end international cooperation on this vitally important project. Beliski feels that this will be highly destructive for the entire process of international scientific and technical cooperation. Also, of course, for a safe future and for the stable and environmentally safe development of civilization.
Well, it has been continuing on Italy, hasn't it?
Yes. For example, in Japan, the Atomic Energy Research Institute has tested a full-size model vacuum vessel for the ITER reactor. It also plans a joint maintenance testing of the vessel with scientists from Russia and the United States. Russia has also provided some of the parts for the vessel, and the welding of the parts by the Russian experts was particularly acclaimed by Western experts as superb work. Much work on the project is also underway at the Russian Research Center in Podolsk. In short, Russia has indeed been very active in the work on a future international thermonuclear experimental reactor.
Well, Boris, let's hope on that the United States doesn't actually back out of this project. Let's go on to another subject, meantime. And we have a listener in England, York in fact, Mr. John Wood, who thanks you, Boris, for interesting programs. Says he can't remember ever having heard you discuss research into the occult in the former Soviet Union. Well, Boris, do please tell us, were there ever studies of the occult in the Soviet Union?
Well, nothing official has ever been published on this subject, but it's widely believed that there were such studies, quite extensive studies, and top secret.
Is it known when such studies were started, Boris?
Yes. During the war with Nazi Germany, Stalin is said to have received some intelligence report from Berlin that seriously disturbed him.
What sort of reports do you mean?
First of all, there were reports from someone in Hitler's entourage that he, like Hitler for that matter, had a private astrologer, a man by the name of Wolf, who was able to predict certain things.
Sounds interesting. And Stalin was actually influenced by such reports?
Well, he naturally dismissed them as nonsense, but the reports persisted, and some did begin to disturb him.
But, Jerry?
Well, there were reports of secret institutes that were conducting studies of the occult and were patronized by Hitler and Himmler. Soviet intelligence may even have an agent somewhere in those quarters. Of course, many of the subjects studied were absolute balderdash.
Boris, let's have an example then.
Well, there was some kind of a lunatic department in Germany called the RHSA that even studied the occult significance of stockholders at ancient. And another one was looking into the occult meaning of Gothic pinnacles. Nevertheless, Himmler even went so far as to boast of some achievements in the occult field in a conversation with Sweden's Count Bernadotte. And Stalin is said to have been upset by reports about the activities of a mysterious team of Tibetans in Berlin. This impressed him, believed, because of some kind of information said to have been obtained in Tibet earlier by the Russian scientist Rerish.
And what was Stalin's reaction to all these reports?
He said to have ordered his own Himmler, the notorious secret police chief Lavrenti Beria, to set up an institution for studying the occult. Accordingly, a large-scale construction was begun, rolling the country's rear, and that was at the height of the Second World War, mind you. Deep, hush-hush bunkers were dug in the woods near the city of Vladimir, and a large-scale research program was launched there, in what amounted to an underground town.
Who was in charge of it? Do we actually know that?
Yes, a physicist by the name of Boris Kozarev. According to he reported directly to Beria. Secrecy was even tighter of what was described as Kurchakov's Atom Bomb project, released on a power wheel, and the program was lavishly funded, even in those hungry war years.
Well, Boris, thank you very much, but unfortunately our time is up. But you should return to this subject sometime. It's fascinating nothing from me, but all our listeners, I think. And I'm sure I'll get lots of letters on that. If you would like to write on this subject to us and ask more questions, or any other subject in the field of science and engineering, please address your normal